Good evening. Oh, jeepers. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy and Councillors. Welcome to tonight's briefing session. Before we go any further, I'll just acknowledge that the Town of Gawler acknowledges this land we meet on today as the traditional lands of the Kaurna people, and that we respect their spiritual relationships with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the custodians of the Adelaide region, and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still as important to the living Kaurna people today. Now, this evening we have two sessions. First one, as you can see on the screen, is an annual management plan review briefing presented by Jack and supported by Talia. Thank you, guys. And then after that, we'll go into a confidential session where we'll talk about 12th Street and the relevant treatment that is being considered. But that's a confidential session because we're dealing with commercial in confidence numbers. So now understand, Jack, we're happy to take questions along the way, make it a bit of an interactive session. So don't hold back along the way. Thank you, Jack. I'll hand over.
Thank you, Chris. Again, welcome Mayor Shanks, councillors, executive, CEO. Again, as Chris alluded, I want to introduce Talia again. Talia has been instrumental in helping along with the review of the animal management plan and the process we've undertaken. Tonight's informal briefing session will outline the outcomes carried out to develop the draft animal management plan for 25-30. While the plan primarily addresses the management of dogs and cats, it also considers other animals that we have significant community or environmental impact within the town of Gawler. So our previous plan expired in 2024, and in 2025 it prompted the review of what we're doing now. We basically placed on the hub for your information, and hopefully you've seen it, is the draft plan, which we have revision A, that's sitting on there. We've also got the submission from the survey findings on there, which is quite interesting, and what we got from our own community, and along with a letter from the Conservation Council supporting Council's push for an animal management plan, specifically in relation to cats. So that's all on there for everybody to read, and I'll get to the homework part at the end of the thing, so bear with me. As Chris alluded to, as we work through the PowerPoint presentation, please, if you've got any questions, just fire them through and we're happy to answer them as we go along. I know there's an important session at the end of the night, so I'll try and speed this through as quickly as we can. And just for some background, in Australia, we've got approximately 69% of households who are estimated to own a pet, about 48% owning a dog, 33% owning a cat. And companion animals such as dogs and cats play a significant role in the lives of many Australians, and especially in the town of Gawler and our own residents. So, and it's plain to see that pets sort of enrich the lives of people and enrich the lives of our community, and they provide physical, mental health benefits, well-being, and they offer companionship, and they facilitate social interactions with our own community, and we can see that in the dog park. Occasionally we get an incident or two at the dog park, but primarily since we had the dog park built, it's been fairly well run and self-regulated by our own community.
So the animal management plan that we have is stipulated by the Dog and Cat Management Act 1995, which is our state legislation. Section 26A is the specific part of the Act that requires us to have a plan in place for our area for dogs, cats and some other animals as well. The Act stipulates certain requirements of that plan, and that is that we must have one in place for the area, that we have to include provisions for on-lead, off-leash and prohibited areas. We have to have it covering 5 years. It must be approved by the Dog and Cat Management Board, and that any changes made must be approved by the board as well.
A copy of the draft plan has been provided to council members for comment. As part of the plan, again, we've included the management of other animals such as feral pigeons, little corellas, foxes and rabbits, which we have issues with within the town of Gawler. And it must be pointed out that these animals aren't subject to the dog and cat management, but they are specific to our area, which is why we include them in the animal management plan as a holistic plan for our area. Now, the session, as I said, will provide a bit of an overview of the plan, and we'll seek feedback from council members following the presentation, and I'll get into how we're going to do that as we go through it. And then what we do, once we receive that feedback, we will forward to the Dogcat Management Board for consideration. And once endorsed by the board, that comes back to council with their proposed amendments, and we'll present that as the final document once we've included all consultation communications.
To initiate our review of the animal management plan, we conducted a survey with the community earlier this year. The survey was posted on social media. We had QR codes on main facilities, so the library, the Civic Centre, Gawler Sport Community Centre. We had posters at the dog park and kept circulating them and frequently resharing them on socials as well, because that's how we're finding we're getting a lot of information and feedback as well at the moment. And we were successful in getting 213 responses from that survey. So from the survey results, we have a survey findings document that you've been provided as well, but the key suggested areas of improvement that we received from that was broken down into each animal species. So we've got dogs, cats, and then our other animals as well. With our dogs, our 4 key points were education in the space of training, general information, and just leaflets and publicly available information. Dog walking infrastructure, specifically in relation to the availability of bag dispensers. Reviewing the on-leash and off-leash regulations in specified areas, in the southern areas in particular, and the barking dog reporting process, wanting to be a bit more streamlined for complainants. In the space of cats, it was primarily wandering. There was quite a lot of feedback about confinement and curfew. And following on from that, it moves into that nuisance caused by lack of curfew, feral cats, people feeding unowned cats, and again, moving into that education space, wanting some more information about responsible ownership and encouraging people to be making better steps for cats, for the community and the cats themselves. We also then had some key points in the adult animal space, more so in increasing pigeon and corella impact and control of rabbits, and any protection that we can put in place for native birds, fauna and wildlife as well.
After what you said, is there going to be a cat registration brought in? And is there any that insight at all in the future? Because it's quite a rampage at the moment.
Thanks, Councillor Sample. The state-wide cat management strategy, which was undertaken through a couple of workshops earlier this year, has come forward with a bunch of recommendations. We are under the firm understanding that each CEO will be written to by the Minister to advise on where we're going with cat management within the state. So there's 2 options, but we'll get into that a little bit later, but potentially we'll wait and see what happens.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning that we currently have a voluntary cat registration process. Do we know what numbers we've got around that, Jack?
On the no, it's that I apologise. We do have that, but it's just not popping out in terms of the numbers. But it's in the thousands. We've probably got about 2,800 cats registered currently in Gawler. So it's quite a substantial number. It's less than half of the number of dogs that we have registered in Gawler.
The main reason for it is people that are energetic, like our CEO, and they go walking along the river and that sort of thing, so that they've never seen so many cats at the moment that certainly would have been roaming the rivers. And as you know, it's Light Council coming from up there, and also the Playford Council down this side of things. and a person, Stuart Bates, that's actually got a property on the river, you know, over there on the boundary of the Gawler, and that said that he was regularly seeing litters of cats, you know, and there. So is this going to work in conjunction with, say, Light Council? They're the two made one, and Playford Council, or are we just doing our own survey? Because that's where I'm sort of coming from in what the walkers have told me, yeah.
Absolutely. The strategy goes across all councils, so it's not just singling out one particular council, so every council will need to abide by that. And depending on what presumably the new amendments to the Act might include, such as cat curfews and cat enclosures within houses and stopping cats from roaming, these are the things that will become law. And this will determine whether we leave the Act to take care of cats with registrations, or we go over to a bylaw, and that's a further discussion that we'll have with the CEO when the time comes. But the Animal Welfare League and other sort of agencies like that have told us that the state government is almost ready to advise local government and the industry as to what's happening with cat management across the state. And this has been almost a 2-year process to get to where we are now.
The specific number of cat registrations for the 23-24 financial year was 2,144, and there was an increase in that the 24-25 financial year. So within the survey findings document that you guys have been provided on the hub as well, the document has summarised all the information that we collated, and the quantitative survey findings have been presented graphically and with visuals, whereas the qualitative findings have been summarised and represented with direct quotes that we've received from respondents to make it nice and clear. The survey respondents were primarily within the town of Gawler area, but 6% were from outside of our area, those two main areas being Hewitt and Paralowie. We also have included in there the submission from the Conservation Council of South Australia as well.
And just to go back to the earlier questions on the numbers that Talia has just mentioned, in the actual draft plan itself, it does actually say, you know, how many dogs we have in Gawler and how many registered, and that's 23-24, we were just under 6,900 registered dogs in Gawler, and we'll see an increase in that as well, and we've seen an increase through our own dealings. So it's quite considerable compared to cats which aren't required under the legislation to be, it's recommended that they are registered at the moment. So in terms of our previous plan over 2019-2024, some of the things that we did to achieve some of the key result areas for what we'd agreed to previously, we upgraded our dog pound, we refitted it, we introduced cage upgrades, we had included heating and cooling, an external exercise yard, internal and external upgrades to the building, and we received a substantial grant out of the Dog Cat Management to help along with that, to get that all built and alarms and all sorts of stuff. So it makes it a bit more humane and a bit more ethical for dogs that we saw were spending, you know, up to a week and a bit with us in our pound. So you wouldn't just leave them in a little cage for such a long period of time without letting them to get out and have a bit of exercise. We came up with an awesome initiative called the Gawler Pet Community, where we have worked through a rehoming program and adopting abandoned dogs, and we've had great success, and it's one of Talia's things that we're very proud of, and we get a lot of great feedback from that. And even some of our own staff have adopted some dogs that we've had in the pound. We're waiting for Chris to step up and do one as well. No pressure. But that's a great initiative, and we're one of the leading councils in SA to actually introduce this, so we're quite proud of what we've done with rehoming and animal adoption. As members of the LGA and Department of Environment and Water, the Birds of Abundance Working Group as well, so we're looking at little Corella control. Again, the Strategic Cat Management Strategy Workshop. Question.
Yeah, well done on the rehoming. I really like the Facebook posts and everything else. I think it's really quite reactive, and it is time consuming and everything else, but yeah, it's really good. On the disposable doggy poo bags, on the Clean Up Australia days, they always seem to end up in the river, especially at Dead Man's Pass and things like that. Just how we get people to realise, even though they're degradable, it's not great to have that degrading in our watercourses because it's a contaminant and quite not good for our frogs and everything else too. So I don't know how, whether on the dispensers or anything like that, but I think everyone's encouraged to put them in the bin, but it's just incredible how many of them just end up either just right on the path or in the watercourse area when you're going through the parks and everything else, unfortunately.
Thanks, Councillor Hughes. That really is an interesting point, because we've been going through up to 7,000 bags per annum, which is a considerable amount of compostable and biodegradable bags at those dispensers. And even with the dedicated bins or the bins that we put nearby them, to hear that are ending up in the watercourse is not something. But we could probably look at doing, education and signage and campaigns with that in mind. Because they're a high quality bag and they do cost a little bit more than us, which we weren't having in the past. So that's, as we said, the transition to the biodegradable compostable bags across our parks and reserves. And we've actually contributed from Council's perspective to the amendments and the review of the Act itself, and we've put up things like breeder reforms and licensing for shelters, the statewide approach for cat management, including registration, prohibition and wandering at large, and nuisance offences, which are quite controversial. As it stands, the only legislation now is the state government legislation, which allows for control of cats on Crown land, which councils don't have that ability to do, but the Department for Environment, Water and Natural Resources do work in that space. And we've examined opportunities to better recognise prohibition and control orders issued under the Act. So giving councils a bit more power to actually address when things need to be addressed under the Act itself. Now, the Animal Management Plan Review for 25, it's organised in two parts. Part one is the context and background, and part two is the management plan, which contains 4 key result areas. And I won't get into the specifics of how the plan and what it outlines, but if you download it and have a look at it, it's fairly explanatory. But the key 4 areas are, the dog management, cat management, the actual plan implementation for dogs and cats and how we actually address them, and other animals. So, and the KRAs and the key results area for dog and cat management include objectives and strategies for key performance indicators to monitor council's progress in achieving these objectives. So this is what we go back to the board with in terms of what we're going to do in our area to address these 4 key areas aligned to the plan. So, and it's aligned to the Act itself as well. So it's critical for the board to see that we're working within that space. And obviously there's some funding associated with that as we go along and deliver some of these initiatives. And this sort of gives you a bit of an outline of the objectives outlined that support the objectives of the Act itself, to encourage responsible dog and cat ownership, reduce public and environmental nuisance caused by dogs and cats, promote effective management of dogs and cats and other animals such as birds of abundance and pest species. So you can see objective 1, and again, very quickly, decreasing number of unregistered dogs, encouraging responsible dog ownership and effective management of dogs, protecting the community, managing barking, minimising environmental impact of cats, encourage responsible cat ownership, securing financial resources for implementing plan strategies, secure non-financial resource to implement the plan, reduce negative impacts on pest birds and birds of abundance in the community, and managing foxes and rabbits, which we have a huge issue within Gawler in a lot of our spaces, specifically as they come in from the rural areas into the sort of the Gawler town centre and Gawler regions to look for food. So, how are we doing? Okay. Now this is where the council comes into it, and what we're seeking is, and following the information which we've added to the portal and in the information cat, we're seeking your comments on the draft plan, and we're asking that if you can work on the plan and track changes or provide your comments to emailing them through to us by next week, then we can attach those, filter those. We'll be talking with the CEO to look at that, and once that's done, the plan, including comments from the council, will be forwarded to the Dog and Cat Management Board, and what they will do is look at the actual comments that we've provided, and that's in this section here. So once the feedback has been received, the draft plan will be sent to the board for final approval. Now, following receipt by council of the board's approval, the plan which will include highlighted commentary from the board itself, should any be received, will be presented back to council for endorsement and consideration.
Jack, just a quick question.
Yes.
Is there a deadline to get it to the Dog and Cat Management Board? Or is it a self-imposed deadline?
The deadline is that the board has to endorse the plan, will endorse the plan following council's endorsement before the end of December. So we've got till the end of December this year to get it through.
Okay. I'm just conscious, we've just given 6 days. Can I engineer a few more days in there?
Absolutely.
Just to give the elected members a little bit more time.
Absolutely. Sorry for the pressure. But
How does that sound, elected members? So if you can work on that for me, Jack. Yep, that'd be great. Thank you.
Can I, if I may, I thank you very much, and I have read through it. Like Councillor Hughes, I think the Facebook pages do a number of things with a very light touch and encourage dog registration, because people can see us using that. You know, this one has not been registered, so now we've got a problem type thing. So well done with that. I think that's really useful. I like the idea of the perhaps discounts for registration if people have gone some type of dog training. So I will provide that. I just wanted to point out, and again, I'll put this in writing, that part of the Act says that we are also, we need to provide for parks where dogs may be exercised off-leash as well as on-leash. And I don't see a particular focus in here. There's a lot of really good stuff, and I know the staff, the staff work really well with the community. But given we had a bit of a blowout about 10 years ago when we tried to do something silly, I think it might be worth addressing that again. And I think there was a clause in here that by providing those, we take the dogs away from the sensitive environment areas. So just a little bit of feedback from me, but I think it's great. And I think it is time to address, well and truly time to do the cats. It's sensitive and can be quite difficult. But having had a family member who worked with council staff about a neighbour who was being quite irresponsible, there can be a good outcome. So I think it's time to do it, certainly from the environment point of view, as David would know. Thank you.
Totally agree. And one of the things that we will be doing as a flow-on effect of the new plan is revisiting all our on and off-leash areas and all the signs that we have. There has been some expressions of we're a little bit confused with where we can go and where our dogs can be off-leash and so forth. So we're going to review that as part of, once the plan's endorsed, that'll be one of our areas that we will work through. And yeah, I think it's well and truly. And through the feedback, there was, when you look at the number of dogs that are registered in different areas within Gawler, a huge proportion in sort of Gawler South, Gawler East, Evanston. Yeah. And comments around, well, how about a dog park in the Gawler South area?
May I suggest that we engage with the various veterinary clinics in town, because they are a great way of getting that message, and certainly they reacted last time very clearly that they believe that there's room for both and necessary, because we have people who are one or the other, but we have to cater for all, so thank you.
Just a comment as well. I think as our population grows and densifies too, I mean, obviously we have a very popular dog park over at Connolly Park, but there's probably scope of having a few around the place, because, you know, I think we're asking your Evanston Park people to chuck their dog in the car or walk them and go to the one. And we're also know we're in a deal with Light Council as well that are promoting Hewitt using the same space. So we do probably see a little bit of crowding, which also probably results in some incidents and the like. I think Councillor Hughes is dealing with one at the moment as well through a frustrated resident. We do have the Aspire Estate sweat track as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, but a dog park is a bit of a set and forget, more or less, for maintenance side of things. It would be cool if we did see a little bit of a strategy, not as full on as our playgrounds, obviously, but imagine if you did see equitable offering throughout the town, which actually supported like a local dog park rather than a destination.
Andrew and I have had sort of some discussion. Andrew, perhaps you could add to that?
Yeah, thank you. I think the Northern Parklands probably is an area where we might have some further conversations with state government in regards to fairly substantial tract of land convenient to the growth area in the southern end of Gawler. So I think that's probably something we'll explore further with government. I know David, in previous advocacy, has shown master plans showing some of the opportunities we were thinking about at the time. So we'll factor that into our further discussions.
So if there aren't any other questions or any more questions, I'd like to thank everybody for their time.
Well, regarding what you're just talking about, dog parks and that sort of thing, there's been a lot of suggestions about having one up in Hemmerford Grove Park up there and so forth. But a dog park cannot exist unless it's fully fenced. That's the way it goes. So it's a certain area that can be done. So because of the content of, I suppose another question is, how closely do you work with the many vets and that in our town? Because, I mean, the dog population, the other day when I was talking to one of the vets, he said it's just quite incredible. Just about everybody's got a dog and they want to take it for a walk and things like that, or let it run free, as Councillor Hennessy's said. You know, like, it'll be interesting what Andrew said, you know, like we'll look into some of these things, but we probably have to provide them at, you know, one or two strategic points around where people can just go and let their dogs. Has there ever been any major problems in the dog park itself of dogs fighting and things like that, or is there fairly strict, stringent rules in how they operate?
Not the people. Yeah, Chris.
No, I don't want to steal Jack's thunder, but we get actually two issues. Sometimes the dogs have a disagreement and sometimes the owners have a disagreement. But to be honest, the majority use the parks, you know, for their enjoyment, and there are no issues. But we do get the odd occasion. Yeah.
And what we find is it's fairly self-regulated. The residents that use it are very sort of proud of the facility and look after the facility. And they report if they see something that's not quite right, or if there's someone there that they don't know if a dog's behaving badly. It comes through very quickly. But we haven't really had many issues with dog attacks, dog on dog or dog on person at all at the dog park. Just a few recent ones with a couple of little nippers that turn up, but it's been pretty good. It's been, you know, from our perspective, we have investigated, you know, incidences there for a very long time. So it's very well run by the community, which is fantastic.
These are dogs and cats and everything. What about the flying ones, pigeons and things like that? Any problem with birds and that in the town? Is that a completely separate division to all of this, what we're talking about now? Because there is a problem, I believe, with pigeons. And is there an update on that? Is somebody still getting a good feed every now and then?
We actually have a contractor on the books that take care of our pigeons in Gawler, and we do have a few, and we try and be on top of them as much as we can. And just to give an example, we took 150 out of a property at Williston just the other week, 150 pigeons flying around Williston and causing all sorts of issues, but we are on them regularly, along with the Corellas at the moment have sort of gone very quiet at this time of the year. So, and last season we didn't have much of an issue, but But pigeons, yes, we've got them, you know, and they're getting into old buildings which have broken windows, and we can actually see where they are from, even from the admin centre building, and we were onto them pretty quick. Yep.
Started noticing on now, I actually like watching them fly around at night. We're getting a lot more bats that are actually cruising around Agora. We got I don't know, do we count numbers of them? Do we keep tracking what's going on? Because they can come quite proliferant and cause a great deal of carnage.
A very good question. We actually have had calls about bats flying around Gawler, which is really surprising because we're so far north to where, you know, the eastern suburbs and the northeastern suburbs where they tend to habitate to. Apart from us putting out warnings about coming into contact with bats, that's all we can do. They are protected. We can't do much with them. But to have them in Evanston and Evanston Gardens is really concerning to see them suddenly turning up in Gawler, which is, as far as we're concerned, a bit of a problem. But they're heading out further north, and yeah. And you can't miss them when they're flying. They are big in the, yeah.
Is it? I'm not quite sure what well, not the relationship, but the process is like that. But with with things like bats, is there somewhere for feedback? Obviously, you've got the Dog and Cat Management Board, but they probably wouldn't deal with bats. But is there somewhere that feedback can sort of flow through, that there might be some environmental impact here, given that they might be protected, but they're not usually up this way?
The two state government departments that we deal with predominantly is SA Health and PIRSA, and they look at it from the perspective of, and I think I'm pretty sure it's PIRSA, look at it from the perspective of the human contact with bats and the risks that are associated with that, and the fact that the bats are coming out here and the control mechanisms in place for that. So, and we're at this stage, councils aren't really heavily involved apart from disseminating information, and one of the other sort of concerns is avian flu, and it's not in Australia, and thankfully we have it, but the information that we get from the state is that it's on its way, and if we get avian flu and we start seeing birds dropping out of the sky and dying, you know, not picking up birds, we've already put out warnings to our own internal staff about seeing dead birds, you know, out in parks and reserves, but we're just waiting now to see if there's any other further decisions. But SA Health clearly on the human element and the risk of disease, and of course the actual environmental impact from them coming into the state and causing the issues that they do from a broader state issue. So
have we reported the recent increase in bats to PIRSA for that to sort of be looked at?
Absolutely, and it's just through communication channels that we have with them. When they ask the question, you know, do you see them? Are you getting them? And we say, yeah, we're actually, but not to the numbers that you see, you know, central metropolitan Adelaide and eastern suburbs and northeastern suburbs. But we have had complaints from some of our southern suburbs out here of people seeing them.
Have we had many problems around exotic pets in Gawler?
No, thankfully.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't referring to tigers and lions, more like I do know there are, you know, emus and snakes and whatever that people collect and aren't necessarily registered or supposed to be there.
Just quickly, going back to dogs, you touched on it earlier. Has there been any major incidents, injury-wise? I can only recall one incident in the council term so far. Has there been any other major incidents involving people getting injured from dog attacks? It's not like a major concern at the moment.
Dog on dog or dog on human, we haven't had anything that's been significant for a good couple of years. So yeah, just predominantly more harassment and things like that rather than an attack. Yep.
When you talk about those incidents at the dog park, they're more two little dogs going at each other and their owners also going at each other, I presume. Is that fair to say? No one's actually getting hurt, pet or owner? Thank you.
One more while I have you. Hypothetically, what do we tell our residents should they have a rogue possum in their roof, etc.? Are you allowed to actually catch them and release them yourself?
We actually have traps which we lend to our community,
Yep.
but the possum must be released.
Yeah, and
So, a permit to release it.
you
So,
have to
yeah,
permit to
yeah.
release it. Okay, cool. No worries. Thank you for that.
But just to close the loop on that, so someone does get a trap from us, we pick it up or they bring it back, or how does that work, the mechanics of that work?
So we have traps ready to go if they're available at customer service.
Yep.
There's a deposit and a daily fee. They can pick it up from us, take it home and return it and get their deposit back. If they've disclosed it's for a possum, we do request that they show us confirmation of that permit approval.
Oh, so they can't bring back a cage with a possum in it? No. No.
They have to relocate that possum in accordance with the permit's approval.
Okay, and the permit comes from us or?
State.
State.
Department of Environment and Water.
Okay, no, cool, thank you, I've learned something tonight.
So if a possum is caught, it must come back to you.
No.
Possum trap comes back.
The trap comes back.
Yeah, I know, but what do you do with a possum? Knock it in the head or what?
You can release it back into the wild.
Yeah, the possum has to be released within a certain distance from where it's trapped in accordance with the permit, if the permit's approved, depending on the location and information that you provide.
So if you catch a possum and you relocate it, it's illegal
Without a permit.
Without a permit.
without a permit.
You can,
I'll be broke buying the permits.
But what we say
course.
is, but what we say, Councillor Sample, is have a look at your house. If they're getting into the roof, where they're getting into the roof, and sealing that section of the roof to stop them coming back in there. So that's sort of the aim and the position that we take with respect to possums.
All right, thank you, Jack and Talia, appreciate that. We might take just a few minutes break if everyone would like before we head into confidence. Thank you.